the Lindemann Crystal Media News Director, on the phone today with Kim Langley, one of our 9 candidates for Summit School Board. And Kim, thanks for making time to talk.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
And Kim, before we get into school board stuff, wanted to find out a little bit about you. So where are you from and how did you end up in Summit?
Sure. So I'm originally from North Dakota in a really small town. And when I was in high school, a senior in high school, I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know how to pay for it. So I decided to join the Air Force. I enlisted when I was 18, and one of the best things I've ever done, honestly. After 6 years of being in the Air Force, I was offered an Air Force ROTC scholarship. So I attended the University of San Diego, and I graduated with a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree in 99. And after that, I got a master's, an MBA, master's in business. And what I did in the Air Force when I was enlisted was I worked in communications and then came back as an officer, and I was a project manager. So what I did with that was I managed source selections for, big DoD contractors such as Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, that sort of thing. I did project management. I did research and development, which was really fun. And finally, for my last assignment, or my sunset tour, is what they call it, I was a professor of aerospace studies in the Air Force. So I taught cadets that came in basically all about the Air Force, kind of helped them figure out if this was something they really wanted to do. And then I also taught the seniors kind of what was currently happening, kind of current events happening in the Air Force at that time. And so I retired after 20 years in 2013. And at that time, I kind of started pursuing some of the hobbies that I had been doing, and I started my own photography business. And so I did that for a few years. And then in 2019, when we lived in near Boulder in Louisville, and in 2019, we decided that we loved Summit County. We loved hiking and biking and skiing, and my 2 boys were all in. So we decided to move up here full time in 2019 from the Front Range.
All right, great. So been in town since, like you said, 2019, but lived down on the Front Range for a while. And then when you were doing your sunset tour, where were you teaching at? Was that high school or was that at the Air Academy?
Oh, thank you. Yes, it was at the University of Colorado in Boulder in their ROTC department.
Great. And like you said, your 2 boys, they were all in about moving up here. What grades are they in?
So, yes, I got 2 boys. One of them's in 8th grade and one of them's in 10th grade. So the middle school and the high school. And
is Summit County everything they wanted it to be once you moved up here full time?
I think it is. They absolutely love it. And so my husband and I do as well. We love the people. We love the kind of small town feel. Like I mentioned, I grew up in a small town in North Dakota. There was about 300 people in that town. And so although the Summit's bigger than that, it still kind of has the same feel. You don't know everybody, but you know a lot of people. You know what's going on, and I really love that small town feel as compared to Boulder, Denver, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's what I've heard from lots of friends too that came from smaller towns, all across the country, is that yeah, sure, Summit's got the resort feel to it. Well, it is a resort, and so we blow up on the weekends and some other times here, but the rest of the time still feels like a small town.
It does, absolutely.
Great. All right, now moving on to school board. Wanted to start first of all with why are you running? What is inspiring you to go ahead and put your hat in the ring? Have you run for boards before? Have you served on any councils or stuff like that? Not
at all. This is honestly in 2013 when I retired from the Air Force. I just thought, all right, this is going to be wonderful. I'm going to be, stay-at-home mom, do my photography business, and I had no, intentions of running for any kind of, political board or anything political really. But like I said, being the mom of 2 kids in school, I'm really worried at what I've been seeing. The schools are truly headed in the wrong direction. As a parent, I would love to see more emphasis on improving our academics and, the test scores and preparing our kids for their futures, for their academic futures or whatever they decide to do after high school. As you know, the CMAS scores, the Colorado Measures of Academic Success scores, have been declining for the last 5 years. we don't even meet Colorado standards right now. Prior to the pandemic, our 2019 scores were, I think, 38.6% of third graders were at level, at reading grade level. And then obviously in 2021, the math scores showed us 26.5% of our eighth graders could perform at math grade level. I just feel like it's really setting our kids up for failure. And I know that our kids can do better and they deserve more.
And the way you see it, school board is the way to enact change, make that happen, to have some sort of voice in, turning the tides.
Well, absolutely. Like I said, when I've been here about 2 years, we've been in the district for 2 years, and, we've seen a lot happening. And, rather than kind of sitting back and complaining, I just thought, my husband and I were both like, we got to do something about this. So, like I said, it wasn't an aspiration to be in politics, but it's just something I feel like I absolutely have to do because I've got the time, I've got the kids in school, I've got the experience as far as just, being in the Air Force and managing money and leading people to a goal. I feel like I have something to offer that could truly make a difference and, to see some changes in the school.
And it's interesting that you say, no aspiration for politics, because you're right. It seems like school boards have really become, for better or worse, political. It's almost like running for any other sort of office. I was talking to another one of the candidates about school boards and the way that schools are operated. Remind me a lot of town councils. You got the board, you've got the council members that help run everything, that, give the directions to the superintendent, which is like your town manager. Now, as you see, working as a whole, how do you expect to fit into that, larger, bigger, umbrella of a school district as a school board member?
Well, I guess going back to your point about being political, I just want to, I really just want to be clear. Us four candidates, and I didn't mention, but that we're running as a slate. And we're running as completely apolitical, which all school board candidates are supposed to be running as apolitical candidates. There's no, L or R behind our name. We are truly apolitical. And our whole goal is looking through every decision that is made, looking through the lens of how is this going to help our children? How is it going to help our kids? Because, I feel like right now the current board, they're kind of in an echo chamber, and any decision that is made, it's all unanimous. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of diversity of thought, and I feel that I personally and the three other candidates running as part of our slate can provide that diversity of thought, so that every decision that is made, there'll be lots of discussion. There'll be lots of parent input, lots of community input, rather than just saying, this is what we feel like we need to do as a school, rather than taking the consideration of how the parents feel and how the community feels. I feel like we're going to be able to be the voice for the parents and the community if we are lucky enough to win.
Yeah, and that brings up a good question that I've had, too, is, so say only one of you from the slate is elected, or only two. How does that work into your plans for school board?
Well, I still think we would still be the voice. We may not be able to, because we wouldn't be in the majority, but you know what? I still think that we would fight for the kids, and we would be the voice for the kids and for the parents in the community. And we may not be able to make, a ton of change, but at least we can be in there to voice our opinions of what we feel should be happening. And, be vocal about it in the board meetings, and hopefully, word will get out. And by talking to, obviously we're going to work with the people that are still there, that still have a couple more years. We're going to work with them, and, hopefully we can just make change for the better for all the kids. Because I think everybody that's running and everybody that's still going to be on the board, I think everyone truly does have the best interest of, the kids on their minds, but I just think they're going about it in ways that aren't necessarily helping with the cohesiveness of the community. There's been a lot of divisive decisions and a lot of money wasted and spent on controversial issues. And so we just need to get back to basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And once we're succeeding at that and doing well at that, then we can add in some other things that need to be worked on.
Yeah, and I know that was one of the taglines for the kids was back to the basics. And for you, kind of the start of that is academics, the kids, what happens in the classroom.
Absolutely, 100%. These kids, every year for 5 years, these scores have been dropping. And I know the scores aren't the end-all, be-all, but, just for an example, when the superintendent was interviewed, I think there were, 5 or 6 questions. Not one question asked was about academics. And that's I feel that is our biggest issue right now. We need to get these kids back up to speed. It's unacceptable that less than 30% of our kids are reading and doing math at grade level. It's truly unacceptable. I mean, it needs to be the number one priority.
Oh, and when you were talking about superintendent interview, you're talking about the most recent round of interviews, right, with Superintendent Crawford?
That's right.
Okay. That brings me to my next question. So Superintendent Crawford, have you had the chance to meet him? And from what you understand of how he's working with the district now, how do you feel about him?
Absolutely. The 4 of us candidates on the board for the kids slate, we met with Superintendent Crawford last week, and we had a good hour and 15-minute discussion about kind of what his goals are and, what they're doing to, I guess, alleviate some of the concerns of the parents. He's working with the superintendents on trying to come up with ways to look at some of the, some of the supplemental materials that may not necessarily be part of the true curriculum for the school. And they're looking at ways that they can kind of filter some of these supplemental materials because they've been getting a lot of negative feedback from the parents on some of the books and the websites and some of the things they're bringing into the classroom. He seems Roy Crawford seems like he feels I feel like he's very dedicated, and I think that we're on the right track with him. I feel like they are really starting to work on the academics in the school, and he's got his plate full. He's got bus driver shortages and teacher retention problems, and then just trying to have a plan together for the curriculum reviews and making sure that the teachers are teaching what's in the curriculum and not necessarily bringing in their own biases.
Yeah, and that's one question I've had for everyone else too. Is that when you dig deep into the weeds of curriculum, that say controversial topics. One that's easy to go to right now is like critical race theory. Controversial topics, they can be discussed as long as they relate back to the academic goals. It should never be used for a teacher to make a political point or for a teacher to impose their views. But if it relates back to the academics, it can be used, and it's actually encouraged. From what you've seen, what you've heard, what you understand from talking to Superintendent Crawford or even others, do you believe some of those controversial items have been used academically, or are they being used to impose a viewpoint on kids?
I think some of these controversial issues are being brought up to and I'm not saying all the teachers. I think some of the teachers are absolutely using some of these topics to kind of, I don't want to say indoctrinate, but they may not necessarily present both sides of an issue. When I grew up, and maybe when you grew up, we did not know our teachers' political preferences. I feel like that's not necessarily the case now. I feel like there's been a lot this past year, especially our school has passed several, controversial policies, and I feel like their hiring practices, everything is to do with race or identity. And I feel like that's just creating problems in our community and amongst our kids. And so I think that Superintendent Crawford and the principals need to kind of rein that in, because I don't think there's been a whole lot of control, or I don't think they know necessarily what the teachers are doing, because I don't think there's been a process in the past to be able to look at all the supplemental materials that are being brought into the classroom.
And that's also the way that I understand the way that school boards work too, is that as a school board, you, if elected, would set the blueprint for the academics and curriculum and all that stuff. And then it is up to the superintendents and principals to carry that out. Just like you said, that is their role in the whole system, is to, to be in charge of that. Okay, great. Let's see, moving on. I had maybe one or two other questions for you. So obviously the past 2-3 years, they've been rough, not just COVID. Not just all that, not just test scores, but also just the shuffle, the superintendent shuffle is what I've been calling it. 3 new superintendents in a couple of years. How do you hope to bring stability and some sort of, stability to the district if elected to the board?
Absolutely. Well, so as I mentioned, we met with Superintendent Crawford, and, I like what I see so far, but, he's been here 3 months. And it's an interim position, so we've got a little bit of time to see kind of how he performs. And unfortunately, if you don't see a difference in the academic scores, we're gonna have to take a look and see what happens. And he may not even want to stay. If he's doing a wonderful job, which I have no doubt he'll. It seems like right now his focus is academics, which we're very happy about. But I know he came in from being retired, and he may say, I don't even want to stay, so then we start over again. And in that case, if we have to start over again and have number 4 in 4 years, we would absolutely have some questions about academics. I'll guarantee you that. We need to find someone that is going to put the kids and academics, again, looking through the lens of what's going to benefit the kids the most. We need to find someone that, and probably has the longevity that could potentially stay for, longer than a year. Someone that has the aspirations to be here for long term, 5, 6, 7 years. Hopefully longer if it's the right person. And so I'm hoping that everything goes well, and in the next year we start seeing some improvements. And Mr. Crawford is the right person. So, and if he chooses to stay, hopefully, I think that would be the best for the kids, to have a little bit of that stability and continuity.
Great. What happens at the top trickles down, hopefully.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And then my final question, like you mentioned, you've got some experience with project management and looking at lots of moving parts. One of your other goals is financials, budget. Making sure that money is spent the right way. What does that look like to you?
Absolutely. So just this past year, as we mentioned before about, the drama and some of the decisions that the board has made, there's been a lot of taxpayer dollars spent on lots of things that are unnecessary. Controversial guest speakers, equity training, lawsuits, unexpected payoffs to previous superintendents that have cost the school hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, I am concerned, and I worry that in the name of inclusion, that we're diverting educational resources into administration and away from the classroom and all those at-risk kids who need it the most. So, for starters, just for an example, I personally would sit down and comb through the budget line by line and check to see that every single proposed or current expenditure is benefiting the kids and goes towards academic improvement. And if it's something that we do not need right now, then I would propose that we get rid of it, because there's a few things, right? Like there's an empty position right now for an equity director, which I think I don't even know if they know what the equity director would do, but it's $85,000 a year, and we're short bus drivers, and we talk to the bus drivers as well, and one of their biggest concerns is they need more pay to be competitive with other schools, with some of the local bus drivers that drive the Summit stage. But yet, we've got a big chunk of money that is designated for like COVID learning loss, so you can use it to hire teachers or bring in paras. And yet this money's sitting there for a director of equity, which I feel is probably not a necessity.
Okay, great. And Kim, That was the last
Yes,
question
sir.
that I had for you. Any final thoughts or things you want to leave people with?
Well, I just want to say I truly want to express that our Four for the Kids candidates are really truly doing this for the right reason. There are no political aspirations. We don't have any hidden agendas. We've got kids in the school district, and we feel that what we can offer this school district could potentially truly help improve the academic scores and help all of our kids, every single one of the kids, be successful in life. So thank you so much for your time, Phil.
Yeah, and
Appreciate
Kim,
it.
thank you for making time to get on the phone, and we'll be staying in touch throughout the election, and best of luck as Election Day gets closer and closer.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Kim.